everyone. I hope you're all well. I did a recent poll in my past GCSE Maths Facebook group asking students and their parents which areas of maths they struggle with in the most. And one that came up a lot was ratio. So I thought I would share with you a part of a lesson that I would usually use to work on ratio with a student. So we're going to look at sharing ratio. This wouldn't be the first lesson on ratio. I'd start off with simplifying ratio and discussing what ratio is. Then after that, we would move on to sharing ratio. So we're going to look at a practice exam question here, where we've got two people, Will and Ollie, and they are sharing £80 in the ratio of 3:2. Now, the first thing I always remind my students is that it's really important to get Will and Ollie the right way around. So you can see here they've said Will first, followed by Ollie. That means if we were to write it out as a ratio, Will would be on the left and Ollie would be on the right. So Will's ratio is 3, whereas Ollie's is 2. So really, really important to get your ratios the correct way around. And here we need to work out how much each of them get. So what I always advise my students to do is always add up the number of parts first of all to work out how many parts we have in total. So we've got 3 parts that belong to Will, 2 parts that belong to Ollie, so therefore there are 5 parts in total. And I could draw that. So often students find it helpful to draw what a ratio looks like. So we could draw it using boxes like this. You don't have to, but if it's something that you find helpful, then go ahead and draw it. Just a quick sketch, remember, because we don't want to waste time. So there we go, we've got our 5 parts. I can put equals 5 here to remind me. Will's got 3 of them, Ollie has 2. Now, the total of amount of money that they have between them is £80, and we need to share that out equally between these 5 parts here. That means I need to take the £80 and we're going to divide it between those 5 equal parts. And to do that, you might want to use the bus stop method. So we'll take our 80 and divide it by 5. So 5's into 8, well, that goes 1 time with 3 left over. 5's go into 30 6 times. So therefore, we now know that each of these parts has a value of £16 because we took that £80 and we've shared it equally between those 5 parts. So because Will had 3 parts, so 3 amounts of that £16, we will do 3 times 16. If you can't do that mentally, absolutely fine. Just do a jotting at the side of your page. So 16 multiplied by 3. 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 1 is 3. Add the 1 is 4. So there we go. Will has £48. And then Ollie has 2 parts. And we know that from what we've said at the beginning and looking at our diagram. So he's got 2 lots of 16. And that equals £32. Again, if you weren't sure how to do that mentally, that's absolutely fine. You can do a jotting at the side of your page. So our answer is that Will has £48 and Ollie has 32. Okay, let's take that one step further now. And instead of splitting something into 2 parts, we're going to now have Molly, Paige and Demi. So 3 children that we're sharing between in the ratios of 3 to 2 to 1. And they've got 42 sweets. So they're sharing 42 sweets in the ratio 3 to 2 to 1. And we need to calculate the number of sweets that each of them receives. So first thing I'll do is I'll write out Molly, Paige and Demi in the correct order. Very important to do that. And we know we've got 3 parts for Molly, 2 parts for Paige and 1 part for Demi. Like I said in the previous question, I always encourage my students to add up how many parts there are in total. So we had 3 for Molly, 2 for Paige, 1 for Demi, which means that there are 6 equal parts in total. Now, if you want to draw what that looks like at this stage, absolutely fine. Sometimes students find it much easier to represent that by using a drawing. So Molly has got her 3 parts, Paige has got her 2, and Demi has got 1. And we know that those are all in equal value. Again, there are 6 parts in total. So if we go back to the question, we need to remind ourselves that we're sharing 42 sweets. So we take that 42 and we're dividing it equally between those 6 parts we've got. 42 divided by 6 is 7 sweets. So in each of those sections, in each of those equal parts, there are 7 sweets. We can now use that to calculate how many sweets they each have. So for Molly, she's got, 3 times 7, so she has 21 sweets. Paige, she has 2 times 7, which gives her 14 sweets. And Demi has 1 times 7, so poor Demi, she's only got 7 sweets. So these 2 question styles are really, really similar. I would just say, if it helps you to draw out those boxes, and always make sure you add up to find out how many equal parts there are in total, like we did at the beginning of those first 2 questions. We're now going to move on to our final question, and this question has a slightly different style. So we've got Alice, Ali and Steve, and they're sharing some sweets in the ratio of 2 to 7. So before doing anything else, I can write that down. I've got Ali and I've got Steve, and I make sure I keep them in the correct order. And we've got the ratio 2 to 7. Steve gets 30 more sweets than Ali. Work out how many sweets Steve gets. Now, this is where I really would encourage students to draw it. If ratio is something that they struggle with, drawing this question to represent it is really helpful. So I would show my 2 parts there, and then Steve has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parts there. Let's work out how many parts there are in total. Well, in total, if we added those up, there are 9 parts, and yes, I can check. We've got 7, add 2 equals 9. Now, with this question, we don't know how many sweets there were in total. We need to use the rest of the information that they've given us to try and calculate that. So we know that Steve gets 30 more than Ali. We also know that he's got 5 more parts than Ali there. So these 5 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they must be equal to 30 sweets, because he's got 5 more parts, and they told us back in this question that he's got 30 more sweets than Ali. So we can just look at these 5 parts here and work out how many sweets are in each part. And to do that, we'll take 30 sweets and divide it equally between those 5 parts, which means that each of the parts is 6 sweets. So we can fill that in here, 6, 6, 6, and 6. And that also tells us that all of the other parts have a value of 6, because all parts are equal in ratio. Okay, let's go back to the question, just double check what it was asking us for an answer. Work out how many sweets Steve gets. So not how many sweets there were at the beginning, how many sweets Steve gets. So he had 7 parts, and we've got to multiply that by the 6 sweets, because there are 6 sweets in each part. 6 times 7 equals 42 sweets. So there we go. We know that Steve has 42 sweets. I hope you found that helpful. Of course, this is just a little snippet into what my group sessions or one-to-one sessions might look like. So if this is something you're struggling with or something else in maths, send me a quick message and then I can discuss with you how I can help. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.